Hi, everyone. This is Marty Burton with Personalized Nutrition Concepts. And we have started doing these PNC client conversations. And the reason why I wanted to start doing these for everyone out there is because what I have found over my last 25, 30 years of practicing, I think sometimes people feel like they're all alone in this process. And no one around them is trying to do what they're doing. And they can feel sometimes like they're just isolated from the rest of the world and that they're the only one that has to go through this. And I just thought it would be great to bring on current clients and previous clients to really talk about, how they did and some strategies that they have had to become successful in their process, just to really help other people, to give you more support if you are trying to reach your health goals. So today I have Debbie with me, and Debbie has been a client with PNC, I believe, for six months, 8 months. Debbie, how long were you a client?
About a year.
Almost a year, yeah.
For a year.
But you probably came into this like most people come into it. You probably came into it with the idea that, I'll just do it for 3 months and then see, and then, I don't know, tell me what your mindset was like when you started this.
Yeah, so I was just looking for, I had tried everything and lost weight on and off for years, and it always came back. And so I was finally to the point where I needed to do something that would change my lifestyle, is basically what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. So I felt in the beginning, I thought, wow, 12 weeks, that's like a big commitment. I'll be at a great place and I'll have learned what I needed to learn. But over those 12 weeks, what I really learned is that the accountability and the support was so important.
Right.
And that after 12 weeks, I hadn't fully achieved the goals or felt like everything had set in the way if I wanted to carry it forward long term. So at that point, I made the commitment to myself that I wanted to see it through until I met my goal of losing the weight, and then could actually start maintenance and maintain that weight before I stopped. Because in the past, anytime I did something, as soon as I lost the weight, then I was like, oh, I'm done. But I think the realization is that this is a lifetime commitment that I'm making to myself for my health goals. And so to me, after being in it for a few months, I realized the importance of continuing and seeing it all the way through, so that it wasn't just another one of those failed attempts that I made.
Yeah, so let's talk about, we all do things, we've all done things in the past to try to lose weight, right? There's so much information out there. I mean, you can get on the internet and there's so much we can do. But then at the end of the day, you have to really ask yourself, how sustainable is this? And Debbie, how long do you think it took you? Well, first of all, how many attempts at weight loss have you had?
Oh, lots. I mean, I've done a variety of things over the years. So I would say at least 5 times where I really made a huge attempt and lost a decent amount of weight and then gained it back. So whether I was doing Weight Watchers or, I've done diets through my gym where you really cut your carbs out. You could only have carbs 1 day a week, or, all different things. But it never really stuck, because I think I was just trying to make it through till I met my goal. And then I was just like, okay. And I didn't really work through, what does real life look like to eat like this? You know what I mean? Like, I ultimately got to the point where I wanted to be able to live my life, but eat healthy. So how do I make it through the holidays? How do I travel? Like being on vacation, but how do you still maintain your weight or lose weight if you're at the beginning of your journey and things like that? Whereas before it was just like something I tried to pull off for a couple months, and then I didn't really fully make the habit changes that I needed to make.
Lifestyle change. And I'm sure you didn't go into each attempt thinking, I'm just going to do this for a couple months and then I'm going to go back to my old behaviors, right? It was just something. And
No.
can you explain to us what those old behaviors used to look like? Like when you came to PNC, what were your behaviors like? What was the tough, challenging part of your lifestyle before you came to PNC?
So I think what's funny is every time I lost weight, like I would tell my husband, like, oh, I'm never going to gain weight again. You know what I mean? I always thought,
sure.
oh, this is it. But it always came back on because I think ultimately I didn't address some of my underlying issues. I mean, I definitely think I had some elements of food addiction, like carbs and sugar were my favorite thing. And so even if I was trying to eat healthy, maybe I was counting my calories. Well, you can wiggle in a lot of unhealthy things while counting your calories. So I think ultimately for me, the most beneficial thing was learning how to balance my meals so that I didn't have the carb cravings.
Right.
Because even if I was eating semi-healthy, I was always trying to work in the things that I was craving. So maybe I'd give up something else so I could, eat a little bit of whatever it may be, some bread or whatever. But I was still constantly having those cravings. So even after, so maybe I sustained it for a couple of months, but I never really addressed like the cravings or kind of my food addiction type of things or my stress eating. Like I was definitely a huge stress eater. So if I was having a busy week, it was just like, I'll eat whatever I want, whatever's fast and easy, whatever made me feel good at the moment so that I felt like that's what I needed to do to make it through the week. So I think learning how to address those issues in a different way. I mean, now when I'm stressed, I may go for a quicker choice than I may have like on a regular week, but I always try to still make it a healthy option. So I just make sure that week when I'm grocery shopping, there's a lot of like salad kits, pre-chopped stuff ready to go. Things like that. Whereas before I would have just ate donuts and cheeseburgers.
Right. So I think you just made a really great point. Some people still come into this program with the same mindset, right? Like, so at what point did you realize, wait, I really need to address the underlying reasons why I keep gaining my weight back? And a lot of it is, our behaviors because of our mindset. And so when did you finally, when you were with PNC, how long did it take you to say, oh, okay, this time I really do need to change this thought process? Oh, she'll be right back. The Wi-Fi's no. Hi, Deb. We lost you there for a second.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, we're dealing with technology today.
Yeah. So I think ultimately for me, right. Yeah. So for me, I think what started to get to me is every time I lost the weight, then when I gained it back, I was gaining more. And I was starting to have more health issues like blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that. And I felt like my weight was starting to hold me back from enjoying activities with my kids. So ultimately, I think as you get older, you start going, oh my gosh, I want to be around for my kids. And so I started to see the value in taking care of my body and that I didn't need a quick fix. Like a quick fix is great. Like who doesn't want to lose weight really fast?
Right.
But ultimately I wanted to change my life. I was tired of the cycle.
Right.
Yeah. And I was tired of every time I went to the doctor being so nervous that my blood pressure was going to be high and I'd have to increase my medication again, things like that. So ultimately, I think I just got to the point where I really wanted to change my lifestyle. And so I just tried to really commit myself to taking the time and investing the time in me. So making sure like each week there was an educational component and I made sure I listened to that every week. It was usually like a podcast or a video or a really short article. So usually 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Right.
But to me, I wanted to arm myself with the knowledge so that going forward, I knew why these things were important for my body. So ultimately, I think it's easier to make good decisions when you kind of know the reasoning behind it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I also agree with you. Once, you had mentioned when you actually learn, so many people suffer from carb and sugar cravings, right? I think we all do. And our nutrition and what we're consuming plays a huge role in our blood sugar levels in our body. They can go up and down all day, which cause the carb and sugar cravings. But when you can dial it in, what you should have, not just count calories, but everybody's nutritional needs are different. But when the carb, protein, and fat grams are dialed in appropriately for you, you don't have to suffer with those cravings anymore. They can actually go away. So how long did it take before they went away for you?
Honestly, not very long. I think last year I started at the end of September at PNC, and 3 weeks later, my husband and I went on a trip to Montreal for our 20th wedding anniversary. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But even 3 weeks in, already my cravings had really gone down dramatically. And I remember on the trip, I kept making him buy these desserts because they looked so good, but I could care less if I ate them or not. But I was just like, here's something unique and different, like that we can't get at home. So you need to order it. Like, I don't care. I just want to watch you eat it. And it didn't bother me, which is just crazy. Cause usually on vacation, I'd be having dessert after every meal just because that's, fun and exciting. But it like seriously did not bother me. And even still, I can, have treats in the house for the kids if there's a special event or things like that. And it's easy for me to say no. Even this weekend, we went and got gelato, and my daughter was surprised because I actually got gelato. And she was like, wow, I didn't think you'd order any, Mom. So obviously she's noticed that my habits and my ability to say no, to that sometimes it's okay to have gelato.
Absolutely.
And to plan ahead and to plan my portion and work it into my eating program. So I feel like I'm not totally depriving myself of those things that I do enjoy. It's not like I'm never going to eat gelato again for the rest of my life, or I'm never going to have a donut again, but I'm going to be thoughtful about it when I do.
Right.
And I'm going to plan ahead so that I don't just have a free for all and then decide like, oh, for the next 3 weeks, I eat whatever I want, and then go, oh my gosh, how did I gain 10 pounds back?
Right. Which brings me to my next point. You were with us last year through the holidays, and the holidays are right around the corner again. And I always tell people the holidays are not from October to New Year. It's a holiday. It's one day. So when you started in September, and so you entered the holiday season very quickly. So what were some of the strategies that you put into place for yourself so that you could actually continue on your health journey, on your weight loss journey during the holiday time? What are some strategies you can share with other people so that you found helpful for you? All the social occasions.
Yeah. So I think for me, the biggest thing was planning ahead. So having my weekly meetings and talking about the upcoming week and thinking about, because I think around the holidays, there's so many events. And if you don't plan ahead, it is so easy to get kind of stuck, or at least feel like you're stuck and need to eat things that may not be on your plan or the best choice for you. So I would try to plan ahead. Like for Thanksgiving, I thought about, well, what are the things at Thanksgiving that what are the food things that I feel like I truly love and need to have? For me, it's stuffing. Stuffing's my thing. So I just chose that was kind of the thing that I was going to enjoy. And I enjoyed dessert as well. And then I tried to build like a healthier meal around that. And I didn't make the whole day a free for all. And I only had that one serving of stuffing. and I didn't have it the next day. Because I know for me, like, I can't just eat a small amount of stuffing. Like, stuffing is just my thing.
Right. I get it.
So I just tried to plan ahead. Yeah. And I tried to make sure, like, so I didn't necessarily try to plan my whole holiday season, but looking at it 1 week at a time, I found was helpful too.
Yeah.
Because if you have one little splurge during the week that's planned and thought out, not a big deal.
Right.
But if you look at your week and you're like, well, I'm going here. Oh, and I need to eat this here, and I need to have this here, and only serving this here. Well, that's a lot of splurges in a week. So I tried to just look at what were the one or two special things. So like at my husband's work party, I made sure I chose healthy items from the buffet because I wanted to enjoy my dessert. So to me, that was like how I planned it, so that it wasn't the entire thing. And I enjoyed it, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And even though, like, my family, we do tons of baking at the holidays.
Right.
I had a little bit of baked goods on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and that was it. But I was fine with that because I knew I was making healthy choices for my body, and it's not necessarily about the food.
Right. So you started having that shift. And then I think too, another important thing going into, Christmas Day or to a work party is to make sure that you're well fed. I think if you go into a situation and your blood sugar levels are really low and you're starving, I don't know about you, but that just sets me up for failure. But when I go into a situation and I have high energy and I feel satisfied and my cravings are at bay, I am much more in control. And, I hear a lot of my clients say, oh, I just don't have any willpower. Well, I don't really believe in that. I believe that you can take control of how you feel going into any situation. And I also feel like you can have more control if you've eaten the right things before the situation and in the right composition to keep the carb cravings and the sugar cravings. Because I know if I go to a party and I haven't eaten anything, I'm probably going to grab 6 of the cookies. I mean, right?
Yeah. And so I always made sure that I ate normally the rest of the day. Like, I didn't skip a meal before I went so that I could have that dessert. It's not like trading one meal for another.
Right.
I just definitely ate on plan. And then I also made sure that whatever I was eating there was well balanced. Or if I know I'm going to an event where there's not going to be any vegetable choices or something like that, I might have a salad before I go and then just eat, maybe it's a barbecue and I know there's just going to be burgers and chips. So maybe I have a salad before I go and I can have a burger and half a bun and be fine,
Right.
So just trying to think ahead of those things.
Right. And here's a big question I get all the time from clients. And it's really a huge belief system out there. They'll say to me, okay, if I'm going to go to this party tonight, what can I sacrifice throughout the day so I can have more at nighttime? So they kind of want to bank their calories or their carbs or their proteins or fats so that they can have more at that one meal. And so I wanted to take a moment to really educate everybody. So your brain doesn't reconcile what you've eaten for the day at 9 p.m. It's not like a bank statement. It really deals with the fuel at that time. So I don't know if anybody knows of that person. Maybe it's you or someone who just eats one meal a day and it may be 1,000 calories, but they're overweight. And that's because the brain says, okay, what kind of fuel is coming in? What do we need to do with this fuel? How do we need to, utilize it? And then anything left over at that time gets stored as body fat, regardless of what you had before or after. So you can't really save things for later. And another question I get too around the holidays, people go to parties and they want to have their alcohol beverages. And I get that question, what can I have? Or what can I do? What's better for me to drink? Is it better for me to have wine or liquor or beer? What about vodka and water? And I get that question a lot too. And honestly, the best thing to do is, because if you haven't had the alcohol topic yet, the best thing to do is really go in with a boundary for yourself, right? Would you agree? Because I don't think that there's one alcohol beverage.
I agree. I think.
Go ahead. Can you hear me okay?
I think you definitely, I just think regardless of whether it's what you're going to, about whether what you're going to drink or what you're going to eat is just having a game plan in advance. I think definitely sets you up for success. And maybe even telling the person that you're going with, you know, like in the beginning, I would tell my husband, like, I'm going to try to have a really healthy, balanced dinner that's, you know, low in fat, because I know I'm going to have that cheesecake after dinner because I've been looking forward to that all year, something like that. So I know that he knows what my plan is, so I'm more likely to stick to it.
Right.
And I just think if you don't have a plan, it's easy when someone offers you a drink to say, oh, sure, I'll have that. Or so I think just being prepared in advance to what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to, and realizing that there's no social obligation to say yes to any of it.
Right.
And most people, they're not going to be upset if you don't drink, especially usually if I tell people, I'm sorry, I'm just trying, you know, really to take my concern about my health right now, so I'm going to pass on that drink. Most people really commend you for having the strength to do that, because a lot of times they feel the social pressure to partake in those things. So
yeah, or maybe they feel relieved that they can actually be around somebody who's doing the same thing that they're trying to do too. They're like, oh, thank goodness. You know, so it's almost like you're setting the example of and you're helping people also commit to their own health goals as well. I don't think anybody shows up at a party wanting to eat all the sugar and sweets and pastries and drink all the drinks. Nobody intentionally wants to do that. Everybody goes into every situation really just expecting.
Right.
But like you said, having a plan and setting boundaries before the actual event is so worth it, because you're just committed. You just have to commit to your boundaries, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. And definitely help talking about them with my coach each week also kind of helped me accountable, because I had my food log, and at the end of the week, she was going to see, did I stick to my plan that we made? And for me, I think that's like the biggest component that helped me was that weekly accountability. And once you're in it for, 6-12 weeks, you start, realizing I can do this. This is sustainable. I'm enjoying my food. Like, it wasn't torture to, eat healthy. You start to enjoy and try different things. And then it starts to feel more sustainable, I think, the longer that you're in. But definitely having that help and support in the beginning, because I never really in the past made a plan when I went to events. It was just kind of like a free for all, because I was like, woohoo, I'm going to a party. But now I feel like in the year that I did the program with PNC, I lived real life for a year. I went on vacation 3 or 4 times. And honestly, I lost weight every time I was on vacation. And I made it through the holidays, and I lost weight through the holidays because I just made sure, like, ahead of vacation, I really came up with a plan. I packed my protein shakes with me. I did research on restaurants ahead of time sometimes, so that I could find a few things that I knew were close to our hotel that had good choices. So if it was, if it was a day where we're tired and we just don't know where to go, I already had a few things that I knew would be a good choice for me, so I could pick things that I would enjoy too, because I don't want to go to a restaurant that has lousy choices and end up with a lousy salad when I'm on vacation. Right. I want to enjoy my vacation. So I want to find a good restaurant that has great healthy options. So to me, doing that planning ahead, I realized that vacation can be just as fun whether you're splurging or eating healthy. Like,
wouldn't you say
to me, it was just planning ahead.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say too, maybe you looked at vacations differently as well. Maybe you spent more time and energy on the activities you were going to do on vacation versus the restaurants and the food that you were going to eat. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think I definitely look at a lot of things differently. And instead of like revolving the vacation around food, it's more about the activities and the people that I'm with. And um, to me, it's actually been very freeing that I don't feel as controlled by food, and that I feel like I have more boundaries with food and I feel more in control. Whereas before, I almost felt like food had control over me just due to my cravings and my habits of stress eating and things like that.
Right.
So just having control over food has helped me in a lot of ways to realize that I kind of have control on my outlook on a lot of things.
Right.
And so I think I appreciate things a little differently than I did before.
I know, it's so true. And I hear that a lot in my sessions. I'll hear something like, and I'm sure everybody can relate, and I do the same. I catch myself doing the exact same thing. People will say, well, my kids were out of school this week, so I couldn't stick to my menu. Or, it's the holidays, so I can't not go to the parties and buy. It's the, there's always an external reason for why people can't do things, when the reality is 90% of it is in our control.
Yeah. And I think for me, that was huge, is just realizing that really I'm the only one who can make these choices for me. And no matter where I go, there's there's always a healthier option. And it's up to me what I choose to eat.
Right.
So I think realizing that and then getting my carb cravings under control has really just helped me feel more in control.
Yeah.
Which I think is a nice feeling when you walk into a situation. I don't feel like, things are just happening to me anymore. I don't have to have a donut because someone dropped them off at work, or things like that. Or like you say, if your schedule gets messed up, because the kids are off school or something like that, really, I still am in control of what I choose to eat or what activities I choose to do. For me, exercise is like a huge part of me just feeling good. It's a big mental health thing for me. So I really have tried to make that a priority too, because I know my day always goes better if I start off with exercise.
Right.
And so just making some of those choices. And I think sometimes, like, I know as a mom, like for many years, I didn't start doing this until my oldest was 17. So for the last 17 years, I feel like I've been taking care of everybody else and not always. So it was easy to just be like, oh, well, I have to do this for them, or I'm running them there, or I'm doing this. And I finally just got to the point where I was like, this is kind of silly, and I need to make myself a priority, because in the long term, I want to be here and I want to be healthy and I want to be able to participate in activities with my kids. And so I think sometimes we look at putting ourselves as a priority as like being selfish. But honestly, I feel like I'm in a much better place mentally and physically because of making myself a priority. I feel like even just being able to deal with stressful situations, I feel like is a lot easier, because I don't know, I've just feel like I've learned more about my ability to control things. So now that I kind of have control over my choices with food, other things as well. And I think it's a great thing to show our kids too, that
absolutely, our kids
we can make these choices.
I know our children aren't really they aren't really listening to what we're saying as much as they're watching what we're doing. And when you take personal responsibility for your own health and you set boundaries and you decide that you're going to make the right choice. They're watching every single move you make. And so I just think it prevents years of agony for our young children, male and female, and what they're going and how and their relationship with food, right? So whatever you're doing,
Right.
they're benefiting from because they're watching you. And if you're taking personal responsibility and ownership over what you decide to eat or how you take care of yourself, they're watching that. That's the best example you could set versus telling them what to eat. I have so many women like and men who will say, well, for me, I have trigger foods, right? Like I know certain foods I can't keep in the house because it'll trigger me and it'll be harder to make the right choice. So I just know not to have those things in the house. And if I do choose to have them in the house, it's very thought out. I have to go to the store to get it and then bring it home and then we enjoy it and then it's over with. It's gone. It doesn't come back into the house. But what I hear a lot is families saying, well, I'm on this, but I don't expect everybody else around me to not have snacks or, all the sweets. So they'll keep the items in the house. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you get what I'm saying, where I'm going with this? Like people really, they want to have all the fun treats and snacks for their children while they try to struggle and take care of themselves. Did you find that too?
Right. Yeah. And I think part of it is you don't want to torture yourself. Like you say, if there's foods that are really hard for you to say no to, and I think it's okay to say to your family, like, we're just not going to have this in the house because it's not a healthy choice for any of us at this point.
Right.
And I think something I've tried to do with my kids is try to talk about what are some healthier snack options. So obviously their snack may not look as healthy as mine, but at least it's healthier than it used to be. So
Right.
How can we make some of those baby steps and for them to realize, like, you don't have to have cookies in your cupboard 24/7 every day of the week. Like it's really not a healthy choice. And that it's okay to maybe save those for a special occasion or certain events and things like that. That, yeah, we want to enjoy those, but we don't necessarily need to enjoy them every day.
Right. It's so funny.
So I think just making yourself a priority is also helping your family too. So I just think selfish, or I'm taking away time from my family, or my family doesn't get to enjoy the treats that they got to enjoy. Like if your kid doesn't have a cookie for the week, is it the end of the world? They're probably learning something much more significant from you by watching your healthy habits anyway. Right. And if that's what you need to do is have no cookies in the house to help make you successful, I think that we just need to sometimes make those things a priority, because when you really look at it, cookies are not a priority, hopefully.
I know. It was so funny
in
when
our lives. But our kids.
It was so funny when my daughters.
Like our kids and our family and our health.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was so funny when my children were younger. They used to get so frustrated with me because I knew my cookies are my trigger and I'll eat them until I'm sick to my stomach. So I just can't have those in the house. But they would always open up the pantry and be like, there's nothing to eat here. What are we going to eat? And I'm like, well, the things, you can have fruit, you can have some cheese, the healthier snacks. And then it just got to the point, because really, if you think about it, everything in the house has to be something that you have to prepare or cook. Processed foods can come in here and there, but that shouldn't be the main staple of the family diet, right? So, yeah, but then it got to the point where they would hold me so accountable. Like if I was eating something that they didn't normally see me eat, they called me out. They're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you eating that? And they just became my new accountability, which I don't really know if I liked it or not, but I just thought it was kind of cute that they just had a certain expectation of me. And if I went against that, they were keeping me in check. Children are just great for that.
Right.
Right. So let's move on to the point where, so what do you think for you, what was the hardest thing to overcome in your process that you had so ingrained your entire life that had to change? What was that hardest thing, that hardest thought or hardest behavior?
I think for me, in the beginning, it's really hard to eat more vegetables and cut out more processed carbs. Like, I just really enjoyed processed carbs. So the first couple of weeks, like eating a lot of vegetables just felt like a lot of work to me. Just because in the past I ate vegetables, but it definitely was not a large enough portion that I needed to have. So I think in the beginning that felt hard to me. And since I was trying to eat less processed food, I just felt like I had to plan more and think about what I was going to eat because I was kind of buying different things. Like I had to buy so many more vegetables than I did before and things like that. But after I did it for a little while and, a couple weeks in when I was feeling amazing, like I just felt so much better, so much more in control. And my carb cravings had really subsided. Then it didn't feel as hard, I think.
Yeah.
And by the time I was, a month and a half in, I didn't have to think hard about my meals. I kind of had figured out, what I needed to eat and things like that. So I think in the beginning it can feel a little overwhelming because some of those old habits are really hard to, it's hard to get rid of the mac and cheese or the, bread with dinner and try to put a lot of vegetables on your plate. But I also found that over time, my tastes have really changed. And I really enjoy vegetables and I enjoy a lot of different things that before would have seemed more like a chore to eat healthy.
Right.
Now I really enjoy my meals. So I don't really feel like I'm missing out on things. Like if I go to a restaurant and I order a healthy option, I don't feel like I'm missing out on things.
Right.
Because I have a great meal. But
Right.
in the beginning, it can feel a little hard because you're still have those old habits are still so close that you do kind of feel like you're missing out maybe.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you have to go out on blind faith that it's going to get easier.
Yes. Yeah. So I think and I think a lot of times, and I know this has happened to me in the past where you just start to get overwhelmed with the whole thing. And it's just kind of like, where do I go from here? This is too much work. Forget it. I'm just, I'll eat healthy, but I'm not going to weigh my food. Or honestly, to this day, I still weigh my food and I measure my food. To me, I feel so much better knowing because I feel like now I know that my body needs this certain composition of food to be fueled properly. And so I feel better weighing and measuring my food so that I know I'm getting the right balance of what my body needs. So for me, that really helped, like being able to, there's so many choices of what you can eat, but knowing the right amount of everything.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody
to eat. Right. And that's the thing, like, so when you try certain like diets and stuff and you just do whatever somebody else is doing, it may not be the right thing for your body.
Right.
So having that ability to check in each week to see how your weight loss is going, to check your body fat, and adjustments can be made if things aren't working out right.
Exactly.
And then also in the beginning, I know I texted my coach all the time because I would be like stuck, like thinking, what am I going to eat for dinner? And then I'd be like, well, I used to eat these turkey meatballs. Can I eat these turkey meatballs? I don't know. And so I'd, be texting the nutrition labels because it just felt so overwhelming then to figure out like, how many servings of protein is that? I mean, now it's like second nature. I can look at a label and it's not a big deal. Or I can look at nutritional information from a menu and quickly figure out what is a great option to fit into my menu. But before, it felt like a lot of work and really overwhelming. So to be able to, I mean, there were many times when I was going out to dinner that I would be like, I think this is what I'm going to order. Does this work? Or, or she might text me back and say, that's a great option. Just make sure you get the sauce on the side, or things like that. So that I had someone to ask those questions of, because obviously, like, the people in my family, they weren't doing the same program as me. So just to be able to ask questions. So I felt like I didn't have an excuse, because I always had someone I could ask any time of day to help me. There was someone always help me figure it out, instead of just being like, this is too overwhelming, I'm just going to eat something else.
I know. That's why I incorporated that service into the process here at PNC, is because I realized people need questions answered throughout the week. And what I found, we've been in business now for 22 years, and I've always had that service, and people do so much better knowing that they can shoot a text to someone, to, their consultant or to me, and just ask that very simple question and get a real quick response. It doesn't have to be lengthy or anything like that, but that can make all the difference in a week, right? So I know that.
Yeah, I just think it makes process, it's less overwhelming, because I didn't always have to do all the thinking. If I was overwhelmed and I didn't know what to order, I mean, I could just text and be like, I'm going to Chipotle.
How do I do this?
What would be a good order?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tried in the beginning, we kind of talked through some of my favorite quick lunch places. Like, I like to go to Chipotle or Salad and Go. And so I kind of devised my go-to meal at those places. So I knew if I'm out and I'm busy and I'm running errands, I can just run in Chipotle and I know what I can order and I know it'll fit into my menu type of thing. So just having those things, but definitely in the beginning, I was doing a lot of texting and asking questions. And probably after, 8 weeks or so, I didn't need to ask as many questions because I felt like I had learned so much. And the last 6 months, I probably haven't texted to ask any questions.
Right.
Just because over time, it just becomes second nature. It doesn't take a lot of thought or effort. I can look at a nutritional label and figure it out now myself. Whereas looking back now, a year ago, it felt so overwhelming at the moment to measure my food and to look at a nutritional label. But it's just nice to know that you don't have to do all that thinking yourself. And when it feels overwhelming, you just text your consultant and you say, what do I do about this? Or
you do
so that's nice.
Yeah, you have some really additional support outside of your weekly appointments. But I think when I'm seeing a client and I start to get really nervous when they start missing their sessions and they don't come in for their weekly appointments, I just get really nervous because I see the difference in people who show up for their weekly appointments. And I understand things happen, and they happen in my life too.
Right.
But it's so critical that people come in week after week to stay consistent with their program. People who stay away for 2 or 3 weeks, it is so easy to go back to old behaviors. So you did that, Debbie. And I just encourage everybody to see this process the whole way through, so that you can get to the end goal. And the end goal is getting through maintenance. If you stop short of that, I can promise you it might turn out to be another situation just like in the past. You might lose some weight, but then if you don't go through the entire process, which is go through maintenance, you have a really high chance of gaining your weight back. And you don't want to do that. You want to take some time to learn everything, to change your behaviors, and feel comfortable with your new lifestyle. And so, Debbie, just real quick, discuss maintenance for you. You decided to invest in yourself because I think it would be less expensive emotionally and financially to see it all the way through the first time versus stopping short and then starting something over again. There's a big cost to that. So when you went through maintenance, how easy was that for you?
I mean, and I thought it was interesting because I initially set a goal for myself to lose 40 pounds, which I thought getting to that weight was kind of the lowest I had been in like 10 years. So I was like, it's probably too much work to go past that. Well, I ended up losing an additional 10 pounds. So I got to my original goal and I was feeling so good and feeling good about the choices and it didn't feel that hard. Like I felt like I had so much information and had so much practice at that point that I was able to keep going.
Right.
So I lost an additional 10 pounds, but I did finally get to a point where I felt like I was kind of ready for maintenance. But I think having the opportunity to slowly add more food to my diet over like the 4 weeks was good because that kind of helps you slowly change your mindset a little bit. I think sometimes it can be hard to add more food in again because you get a little nervous.
Right.
But to me, I felt like I had so much information about the importance of all these different components to my diet and why I need fat and why I need protein and why I need carbohydrates, and that I felt good about the fact that this food was going to fuel my body and that I didn't really need to be nervous about gaining weight back, and that I still had my weekly check-ins so I could say, this feels like too much food, or, your weight is being monitored while you make that adjustment instead of just like guessing. Usually before, when I was done with my diet, I just like went back to eating what I thought was healthy, which for each person is going to be different what your body needs. So I think it's important to get to that point. And now I feel like I have the tools because I know what I need to eat at maintenance.
Right. You have your maintenance menu. So if you
I
ever did
gain a few pounds, I feel like I could go back to my old menu and know that that's going to fuel my body in a way that's appropriate for losing weight. And now I know how to go back up to maintenance. So having been through the complete process, because I think if you don't get to where you know the right amount of fuel to maintain your weight, it is so easy to kind of gain weight back, or for some people get scared and I think maybe don't eat enough to maintain their weight to stay healthy. So I think making it all the way through the whole process is good.
Yeah, I think
and making that commitment. And I know a lot of times people are like, you went once a week, going once a week for a whole year. I did. I literally went once a week for a whole year. I think there was maybe once or twice where I was on vacation and missed a week, but and no matter where you are in the process, there's always something else that you can learn. In the beginning, it's just a lot of little things about what to eat and things like that. But you start to talk about things like food triggers or different aspects of nutrition that help you cope with all areas of your life, I think. So there's always issues to be tackled. And it forces you to plan and be mindful of your eating, where I think it's easy to get busy and put it on the back burner.
It is. And it's just, and you don't put it on the back burner when you show up every week. And I think a lot of times people want to stay away. I'll get texts like, I need to cancel my appointment. I didn't have a good week. Well, that's the most important time to show up so we can find a solution to what's going on with you. Don't hide. Nobody's judging. We're all on the same page. We want the same results that you want, and we're here to help you get that. And so, Debbie, I just want you to take a minute to let everybody know, because I'd like to celebrate you and your results. Let everybody know how much body fat you lost and how many pounds you lost in your process.
Yeah. So ultimately, I lost about that's great. But when I look at my body fat results, when I first went in and had my body fat checked, I was like in the poor range, the worst range.
Right.
And so I got so excited every time I would move like even just getting to the fair range was like so exciting to me, because I don't know, I just feel like body fat's a good kind of way to look at how healthy your body is. And it's not just weight. Like, you could have body fat and it still have high body fat and maybe not have this huge number on the scale that's totally scary. But
right.
So ultimately, I think I ended up in the excellent range. So I think I lost probably about 18% body fat. Like,
that's huge.
Because I think I went from like 37 to 17 or something. So probably about 20% body fat.
And how many pounds did you lose? I don't think I caught that. So how many pounds?
About 60 pounds.
60 pounds. Wow.
60.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And now you're fully confident and you don't have any fears whatsoever of gaining that weight back.
No, I mean, I feel good. Like, I have the information that I need. I know what types of things to eat. So I feel really good about it. Yeah. And I also know that if I ever have a problem, I have a resource to go back to at any time.
Absolutely.
So it's not like I can never call you again and ask for help. If I am struggling with something or something, even because sometimes you have health changes in your life that you need to adjust your diet for, or all sorts of things could happen.
Yeah, anything
so
can
just
change.
Knowing that I have that resource is helpful too.
Yeah, like all kinds of changes can happen. Changes in your hormones, changes in your activity level, just all sorts of changes, as you move forward could happen. And a nutrition tune-up is really, really important during those times, for sure.
Right.
Well, Debbie, I want to thank you so much for making time today to talk to everyone out there. And hopefully everybody at least gains something from this video that you can learn for your journey toward health and wellness, and the strategies and the mindset and what you really need to be successful in not only getting to your health goals, but more importantly, maintaining them. And Debbie was such a great example of that and how she ran her program. I just wanted to bring her on to share with everybody so you guys can learn. Just take something with you. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Debbie. And we will be connecting soon. Take care.